The wrong dog to mess with. The sun hung low over the city as Alex Donovan stepped out of his apartment, stretching his arms with a satisfied yawn. It was a perfect day for a ride. His beloved black and red Kawasaki stood outside, gleaming in the morning light. Alex wasn't a bad guy, at least. That's what he told himself. He was just a thrill-seeker, a man who lived for adrenaline and fun, sometimes at the expense of others. His friends loved his wild antics, and he had built a reputation for being a daredevil with an unfiltered sense of humor. But today, his humor would land him in a world of trouble. As he sped through the city, weaving through traffic with reckless abandon, he pulled into a gas station for a quick refill. That's when he spotted the blind man. The man, dressed in a worn-out gray coat, stood calmly near the entrance, holding the harness of a German Shepherd. The dog sat obediently, its intelligent eyes scanning the area, its ears perked. A thick leash connected the two, and the man's dark glasses confirmed what Alex quickly deduced. The guy was blind. A smirk curled across Alex's lips. He nudged his friend, Brandon, who had pulled up beside him on a matching bike. "Watch this," Alex whispered. Brandon groaned. "Man, don't do something stupid." But Alex was already moving. With a quick step, he lashed out with his boot, landing a light but firm kick against the dog's hind leg. The reaction was immediate. The German Shepherd jerked up, its head snapping in Alex's direction. The blind man tightened his grip on the harness, his face suddenly unreadable. Alex chuckled, expecting a flustered response, maybe even some choice words from the man. But what happened next sent ice through his veins. The blind man reached into his pocket and pulled out a badge. A police badge. "You just kicked a K9 officer, you idiot," the man said coolly. Alex's smirk vanished. The dog didn't growl. It didn't bark. It didn't need to. In one swift movement, the German Shepherd lunged, hitting Alex in the chest with enough force to send him stumbling backward. His heart pounded as he hit the ground, the weight of the trained K9 pressing against him. "Damn it, call him off," Alex yelled, panic creeping into his voice. The man let out a small chuckle. "Not so funny now, is it?" A crowd had started to gather. Brandon stood frozen, his eyes wide. The blind man let out a low command, and the dog immediately backed off, though its eyes never left Alex. Then, sirens. Someone had already called the cops. Within moments, a patrol car pulled up, and two uniformed officers stepped out. One of them recognized the blind man instantly. "Officer Reynolds." "What happened?" Reynolds gestured toward Alex. "This one thought it would be funny to kick my K9 partner." The officer's face darkened. "Oh, he did he?" Alex scrambled to his feet, his hands raised. Wait, I didn't know, okay? It was just a joke. You assaulted a police K9. The officer cut in. That's a felony." Alex's stomach dropped. A felony? Over a joke? As the officers slapped handcuffs onto his wrists, reality hit him like a truck. His mind raced. This was just supposed to be a harmless prank. He had spent his life chasing cheap thrills, but this was a line he never should have crossed. As he was shoved into the back of the police cruiser, Alex stole one last glance at the German Shepherd. The dog stared at him, still silent, still composed, but with a quiet authority that made it clear, you messed with the wrong dog. And for the first time in his life, Alex Donovan regretted one of his jokes. Alex sat in the back of the police cruiser, his heart hammering in his chest. This couldn't be happening. A joke, a stupid, impulsive joke, had just landed him in the worst situation of his life. He looked out the window as the officers spoke with Officer Reynolds, the blind man whose dog he had kicked. Brandon stood nearby, his hands stuffed into his jacket pockets, shaking his head. Alex tried to make eye contact with his friend, silently begging him to do something. Brandon only sighed and mouthed, "You did this to yourself." The officer driving the car turned around. "You've got a serious problem, buddy." "I didn't know it was a police dog," Alex blurted out. "Doesn't matter," the officer said. "A police K9 is considered an officer of the law. You assaulted an officer." Alex clenched his jaw. He wasn't a criminal. He had never even gotten more than a speeding ticket before. But now, he was on his way to jail. The booking process at the station, things moved fast. Mugshots, fingerprints, paperwork. The whole process blurred together in Alex's panicked mind. As he sat on the cold bench inside the holding cell, his leg bounced anxiously. He could hear the chatter of officers in the background, the sound of printers whirring, the occasional burst of laughter. To them, he was just another idiot who had made a dumb mistake. Hours passed. Eventually, an officer came to the cell. "You've got a visitor," he said. Alex frowned. Who would come for him? His parents didn't even live in the city, and there was no way Brandon would bail him out after what had happened. As he was led to the visitation room, his stomach twisted. Sitting on the other side of the glass was Officer Reynolds, the blind man he had wronged. His German shepherd, the K9, sat obediently at his side. Alex hesitated, then slowly sat down. He picked up the phone, swallowing hard. Reynolds spoke first. "You don't look like a hardened criminal." "I'm not," Alex said quickly. "I swear, I wasn't trying to." Reynolds raised a hand. "I know exactly what you were trying to do. You thought it'd be funny. You thought no one would get hurt. That's the problem with people like you. You don't think beyond the moment." Alex clenched his jaw. He hated being lectured. But for once, he had no defense. Reynolds continued. "Do you have any idea what it takes to train a K9? How much time, effort, and trust goes into a partnership like this?" He gestured toward his dog. "This dog has saved my life. He's tracked down criminals, found missing children, and kept officers safe. And you thought it'd be funny to kick him?" Alex lowered his gaze, shame burning through him. Reynolds sighed. "Look, I didn't press felony charges." Alex's head snapped up. "Wait, what?" "I could have," Reynolds said. "And trust me, you'd be in real trouble if I had. But I don't think you're a bad kid. Just an idiot." Alex let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "But," Reynolds continued, his tone sharp, "that doesn't mean you're walking away clean." Alex tensed. "What do you mean?" Reynolds smirked. "You're going to make this right. Community service, K9 unit training the next week." Alex found himself at the police K9 training facility. It wasn't prison, but it wasn't exactly fun, either. His punishment? Volunteering at the very place where police dogs were trained. Cleaning kennels, feeding the dogs, and, worst of all, learning just how serious these animals were. Day one was humiliating. Every officer at the unit knew what he had done. He caught their amused glances, heard the occasional, "That's the guy," when he walked past. But day two? That was when he started to learn. He watched the dogs train, how they obeyed commands with precision, how they detected drugs, tracked scents, and even took down mock suspects. These weren't just animals. They were officers in every sense of the word. By the end of the first week, he had a new appreciation for them. By the end of the second week, he actually started to respect them. And by the third week, he realized something shocking: he liked being there. One day, as he scrubbed down the kennels, Officer Reynolds walked in, his German shepherd trotting beside him. "You're not half bad at this," Reynolds remarked. Alex wiped sweat from his brow. "Yeah, well, turns out these dogs are actually kinda cool." Reynolds chuckled. "Kinda?" Alex smirked. "All right. They're really cool." Reynolds nodded. "Maybe next time, you'll think before pulling a dumb stunt." Alex exhaled. "Yeah, I think I learned my lesson." Reynolds knelt beside his dog and patted its head. "Good. Because trust me, you never want to be on the wrong side of a K9. Alex believed him. And for the first time in a long time, he realized he didn't want to be the guy who laughed at others' expense anymore. He wanted to be better. The weeks turned into months, and Alex's mandatory community service at the K9 unit finally came to an end. What started as punishment had unexpectedly changed something in him. He wasn't the same reckless thrill-seeker anymore. On his last day, he stood outside the facility, staring at the police dogs playing in the yard. One of them, a young Belgian Malinois named Rex, trotted up to him and nudged his hand. "You'll miss them," a voice said behind him. Alex turned to see Officer Reynolds standing there, his faithful German shepherd at his side. Alex scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, weird, right?" Reynolds smirked. "Not really. These dogs have a way of leaving a mark." Alex sighed. "So, what now? I just go back to my old life." Reynolds shook his head. "That's up to you. But if you ever want to do something with more purpose, I might have an idea." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah? What's that?" Reynolds reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. "The department runs a civilian K9 training program. It's not easy, and it's nothing like your stunt riding days, but you've got potential." Alex stared at the card. It was an invitation, an opportunity he never would have considered before. He looked up at Reynolds. "You really think I could do it?" Reynolds smiled. "I think if you put half the energy into training as you did into causing trouble, you'd be one hell of a handler." Alex chuckled. "Well, I guess there are worse ways to spend my time." Reynolds gave him a nod. "Think about it." As Alex watched the officer walk away, he looked down at the card again. Maybe this wasn't just an ending. Maybe it was a new beginning. The end. Or maybe a new start.